Okay, I'm gonna minimize this, come up to the screen, refresh. If anyone can hit a comment and let me know if we are in fact live, we'll do it live. Let's see here. Okay, refresh, come on, how are we done? Refreshing. 54 people waiting, not bad. Why sleep when you can fry? Okay, are we? That's a painful way to be woken up. Okay, I missed something in the comment section. Are we live? It looks like we're live. I see commercials, and I'm gonna put it on pause just so that I can see the comments. Have I seen one comment to indicate that we are in fact live? First, Ian Meltzer, Connie Carr. Okay, awesome. This is fantastic. We'll give a little intro. Let me see what the framing looks like on the YouTube. And we'll give a little intro just to explain the rules, and then we'll get into it because I know that people who are interested in this subject don't necessarily want me to dilly-dally? Okay, that looks perfect. Around with too much other extraneous stuff. It's on pause. All right, hi everybody, this is awesome. This one, I swear to you guys, I did 5 pages of notes so that I would be linear, chronological. Someone wants to say hi? Come on up here. Come on up, let's go. 1, 2, no, you don't? Okay, fine, he doesn't want to say hi. Okay, he does. 1, 2, 3, here he is, boys. Oh yeah, hello Barney. You want to say hi to the internet? Okay, we're done. Out you go. I wanted to stay linear and make sure we get this done properly. So not legal advice, nothing in here is legal advice. This is, and if you want, incidentally, if you want good commentary on this, because I'm not really going to turn this into an opinion piece. Tim Pool did an amazing video on this where he gave like a very insightful, emotional commentary, like an interpretation. It was great. And so Tim Pool, it's either Tim Pool or Tim Cast, I forget which channel it was on, was great. Hello, Barney. Hello, Barney. Oh, incidentally, we spelled Barney B-A-R-N-I-E because it's Quebec, and we wanted to go with the French sort of spelling, and we wanted to distinguish him from the dinosaur, Barney. My legal insight is awesome, Matthew Casey. Thank you very much. Okay, and I'm going to read the comments in as many as I can, and I will respond to any super chats in due time. We're going to go like structure by structure, or order by order, or something along those lines. I guess we can give a few more minutes to get people here, but we're going to do this. This is an amazing. It's an amazing situation to follow from a legal perspective, and it's going to have impact. Now, I shot all of this content to make a vlog on it, and then I noticed because I shot it outside that my camera, for some reason, focuses on things behind me. Autofocuses, and I was blurred for the better part of the entire video, and I couldn't stand or bear to like do another hour of content for this. Audio level is good for everybody? Sandra WM says, you almost make me like lawyers. Almost. Yeah, their lawyers are a peculiar breed of human. Okay. We'll start slowly. For anybody watching this after the fact, it's going to go chronologically so you can skip sections. We're going to go facts. We're going to go lawsuit. We're going to go headers of damages claimed in the lawsuit, outcome, compensatory damages, punitive damages, evaluation of business. And I'm going to shed some light for anyone who's never been involved in the litigation process on the human aspect of all of this, which is really what turns my stomach when going through all of this and keeping up to date on it. French Quebecois or English Quebecois, I am of the 15% non-francophone, but I did my law degree in Quebec City at Université Laval. I did everything in French. I wrote one exam in English, and then I said, forget it, I'm going to write them all in French because that's what you do when you're fully immersed in the language. Shane Wolf, thank you very much. The super chat thing is amazing, and if anyone has any questions, you can ask him. Super chat I will get to. And congratulations to the Raptors. Everyone on that team is American, including the coach. It's fun to watch, and it brings excitement to Toronto and the country. It's an interesting thing. Boomer says, could you please comment about the Tim Pool being censored regarding his story regarding Pinterest? I will get to that at the end of this. We'll deal with the Oberlin thing, and we'll get to that as to what I understood about it because I just saw Tim Pool's tweet this morning. But thank you very much for the super chat. Okay, let's do this. 189, we're going up slowly, but we'll start. Okay, by show of Y's or N's, who knows roughly what's going on with this Oberlin Gibson's Bakery saga? Let's see how fast it takes for these things to come in. Basketball is a Canadian invention. This is true. Gibson's Bakery is a family-owned bakery. I think it opened in 1885. It opened roughly lots of Y's and lots of N's. Okay, good. So there'll still be news. This will be news for some people, and it might be additional details for others. Gibson's Bakery opened in 1885. From what I read, it's roughly as old as Oberlin University itself. So they basically coexisted in this very quaint small town in Ohio. And the stuff hits the fan in November 2016. Now, the pundits are saying that, no, let me rephrase. If the pundits are right, because there's pundits on both sides, this is going to go down as the decision that illustrates when social justice itself can become the injustice. And I've been reading interpretations on both sides. People say that this is a risk to the First Amendment. Others say that this is a victory for due process and curbing the reflexive reaction of student bodies and universities. We'll get to that. But this is going to be an important decision, and I think I tend to agree that this is going to go down as setting some framework and creating the liability that is going to have to be reflexive in institutions who may have the incentive to react the way Oberlin did, but we'll get there. November 9th, 2016, the day after, or 2 days after the election, so you can imagine the political climate in America. A student, an Oberlin student, and I say who happens to be black because the whole issue, and this took off in the wrong direction when race became an issue when it ought never have been an issue, and when it, by all accounts, was never an issue to begin with. An Oberlin student is trying to buy alcohol at Gibson's Bakery, apparently using a fake ID. Subsequently turns into shoplifting. Alan Gibson, who is the son of the current owner, David Gibson, of Gibson's Bakery, which has been in the family for 5 generations, I believe, gives chase. A kerfuffle ensues. And this is the beginning of the misinformation that spreads like wildfire. An incident ensues where what the information that circulated through Oberlin is that the son of David Gibson, who is white, racially profiled and accosted 3 students or one or three students who were at the store because they were black. We're going to fast forward just to open the parentheses. It turns out August 2017, the 3 students involved in this incident pleaded guilty to various charges, including aggravated trespass. So to say that this is the wrong information from the beginning is an understatement, but this is the information that spreads through the university. Gibson's Bakery, the son, assaults and accosts and racially profiles 3 students who were just there to shop and do no wrong. The student body gets involved, and student activism gets involved. And this is an interesting thing also because it illustrates the risk of when student activism becomes institution activism. But what ends up happening is the student bodies get involved, it becomes politicized, it becomes racialized, it becomes a very serious problem in the student body where the student senate gets involved, passes a resolution to the effect that Gibson's Bakery has been guilty of this or has a history of racial profiling, is a racist institution. They want Oberlin College to sever their business ties with Gibson's Bakery because of the incident. People start protesting outside of Gibson's Bakery, and we're going to get into more of those details later. Oberlin does, in fact, sever its business ties with Gibson Bakery. Apparently, they use them for catering. They use them for supplies in the, the cafeteria. But they use them, they've been using them for a long time. And they sever the ties with them overnight as of November, and they only restore them, I believe, as of January 2017. So they do, in fact, sever ties with this business over the incident, which everyone got backwards from the beginning, and it became clear in August 2017 when the 3 students pleaded guilty to aggravated trespass, 1 pleaded guilty to shoplifting. But at the time, this was the story that was being pushed, or this was the understanding within the university. So it's not just that Oberlin severed its business ties with the bakery. The dean of students, whose name Meredith Raimondo, was apparently on site protesting, handing out flyers to third parties. The flyers, if I can get it, if I can bring it up and you can see it. I don't know how to share the screen. I'll see if I can do it afterwards, but the flyer says, "Don't buy, this is a racist establishment with a long account of racial profiling and discrimination. Today we urge you to shop elsewhere in light of a particularly heinous event involving the owners of this establishment and local law enforcement. Please stand with us." And there's a whole section. You can find this flyer online. And at the risk of to be totally objective and to give both sides, apparently the evidence of Oberlin was that Meredith Raimondo was not handing out the flyers. She handed one flyer out to the media to show what was going on. That's not the account from the plaintiff side, Gibson's Bakery, but those are the diverging accounts. But one thing is for certain, the story that was being told or the information in that pamphlet turns out to be false later on, August 2017. Protests go on, business ties are severed. The business of Gibson's Bakery is basically decimated overnight. I haven't been reading any of the comments actually, but I see if a super chat comes up, I will see the color change, but I'll see if I get back to some of these comments. The Gibson's Bakery's business is decimated. Obviously, I would imagine, I don't know the financials, but I would imagine their contracts with Oberlin College itself was something substantial. You lose that, you lose a big chunk of your business. You have people protesting outside your store, incentivizing or deterring people to not shop there. It's a no-brainer. That was the purpose of what they were doing. I think it's Alan's uncle, David's brother, ends up working there 40 to 60 hours a week during this time while they cut staff for free. Alan works there without salary just to keep the business afloat. Oberlin restores its business relationship with Gibson's in January 2017. In August 2017, the three students plead guilty to these charges. And just, we'll open up a parentheses here because aggravated trespass is an interesting thing. From what I'm able to see, aggravated trespass, or let me rephrase, trespass itself doesn't seem to be a crime in Ohio, and it's sort of similar to Canada where trespass itself is not a criminal code infraction, but in Canada you have something called assault by trespass, which is if you're on the property trespassing and you commit a crime or you assault somebody or you refuse to leave and there's a kerfuffle, then it becomes a separate actual crime. And it seems to be the same thing in Ohio where you have a statute, where you have an infraction called aggravated trespass, which is when trespassing without lawful authority on someone else's property, if you commit a misdemeanor, that becomes a crime, aggravated trespass. So they pled guilty. Pleaded or pled? I think it's pleaded. They pleaded guilty to various misdemeanors. They also made a declaration to the effect, these are the students, the three students that, where this all originated. They made a declaration that there was nothing racial about it, that they were not racially profiled. Depending on which side you want to believe, one can make the argument that they're making this declaration to lessen their sentence or as part of a plea bargain, and so it carries whatever weight with it. Or others could just say, yeah, everyone's trying to make right of a situation that got out of control quickly. August 2017, that happens where it becomes clear that these students were not profiled by the owner and they were not accosted by the son. They were in fact shoplifting, and the incident ensued. One of them was in fact shoplifting. In 2017, I think it's November, Gibson sues Oberlin. And this is where the lawsuit gets started. So those were the facts. Anyone, if I missed anything material in the facts, let me know. And I'm going to see if I think there's too many comments to go back and read. Okay, pleaded is proper for legal status. Yes. I read somewhere someone else used the word pled in an article. I said that doesn't sound right because it didn't ring right. Okay, so they sue the university and they sue Meredith Raimondo personally. She was the dean of students, and I think she was vice president of the university as well. Vice president and dean of students, actively on site during the protests. They sue her personally. And an interesting parentheses from some articles I've read. I think the term was that they had. I won't call it a hold harmless, but apparently Meredith Raimondo is not going to be held personally liable to repay anything because the university is going to assume the judgment against her. I forget. I'll see if I get the term that they use, but basically it's the university is going to assume whatever condemnation was ordered against Meredith Raimondo because presumably she was staff. So they sue. The headers of damages under which they sue are libel, which is defamation, and a fun way to remember. There's libel and slander, which are two forms of defamation. How do you remember which one is which? Because one is written, one is spoken. The way I remember it is libel is literary, LL, like an alliteration. So libel is written, slander is spoken, SS. So slander is spoken defamation, libel is written defamation. They sue the university for libel. They sue the university for intentional interference with business relationships, or I think another term is tortious interference with business relationships, and I'll describe that in a second. And they sue for intentional infliction of emotional distress, which, from what I understand, is basically like pain and suffering, what we have in Quebec. It's the catch-all for stress. 3 steps sideways, just €2 or pounds. That's £2. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just value the content. Do carry on. Thank you. So those are the headers of damages as I understand them. Libel is obvious. It's written or spoken defamation, but it is written false statements that tarnish a reputation and that cause damage. In this case, it's, you know what, let's try this. I'm going to go to share my screen for 1 second. Share screen, and if I can bring up, I don't know what happens when I do this. Is this it? Oh, I don't. This is it. So open this up. Here we go. I don't know if you can see this. This is the pamphlet that apparently was being circulated in front of Gibson's Bakery. And I'll leave it up for a second and just see if everybody can actually see that based on the comments. Stephen Shanks, thank you very much. Really appreciate your videos. Thank you very much. Can everyone see this thing that I'm looking at? Because I can't see if you can see it. This is the flyer. Okay, let me see if I get. Nope, can't see. Okay, fine, whatever. You can see it online. It's online, but it basically says, I'm gonna stop sharing screen. I'll read the second part. It says, a member of our community was assaulted by the owner of this establishment yesterday. A 19-year-old man was apprehended and choked by Alan Gibson of Gibson's Food Mart. And I mean, it goes on to make allegations which turn out to be totally false, and hence defamatory. And they caused. This is one thing we have to talk about, the human element of this. Billy Laptop says Oberlin has an $800 million endowment, plenty of cash to pay out for the SJW bloopers. Always a reminder, keep everything civil in the conversation section, so we can stay civil, however impassioned everyone is, because it's a topic that can make people passionate. What does that say? Me and Sarton, Oberlin indemnified Marie Mando. Yeah, I have no doubt that they held her harmless because she's an employee, and they in theory should be held responsible for the acts of their employees. We're going to get into that because she was condemned personally, which means that she was acting, as far as my understanding of the law would be, beyond her status as an employee, but that's Oberlin and hers agreement that they can have. Where was I? They sued for damages, defamation, tortious interference with business relations, because it's not just that they were spreading misinformation as relates to the racist history of this institution. That's the parentheses. This business has been in Oberlin operating for 125 years in a town that can, that prides itself on being progressive. You have to question how people can promote this idea that if this institution had a long history of racism and racial profiling and discrimination, it's as a lawyer, I would say that my pleading would be this couldn't possibly survive in a progressive town like Oberlin if it were true. And you can imagine that from the family's perspective, having built this name, this brand, this institution for 5 generations, and to see this happening, I mean, the human impact is immeasurable. And when I always say in law, even when you win, you lose. It's not. I don't think anyone could have said to the Gibson family, how many years ago now? 3 years ago, you're going to get paid $44 million or $33 million or 22 or whatever it's going to be after appeal, but this is what you're going to have to endure. I don't think you could have paid them enough money to endure what they've endured. And this is the human aspect of law, which is difficult for anyone who's not been involved in litigation to appreciate. So they sue them for the second ground was tortious interference with business contracts, because it's not just that Oberlin severed their own business ties with Gibson's, and in law, at least in Quebec, and I suspect it's the same elsewhere, contracts of services, nobody can be held to stay in the contract of service with their co-contractor, and you can in theory put an end to a contract of service just because you want to, just because you don't like the other person anymore. But there are exceptions where if you do it in an abusive manner or you do it in an untimely manner, let's say, for example, your service provider just invested $500,000 in a specific type of oven so that they could, carry out the services under their service contract with you. If you terminate abusively that causes them damage, you can be held liable. So, but that said, they were not suing Oberlin for damages resulting from breach of their contract or their catering agreement. They were suing for tortious interference with business relations because Oberlin was apparently facilitating the spread of all of this misinformation and promoting and encouraging third parties to stop shopping at Oberlin. And the analogy I had, it's like you break up with your ex, and it's not just that you break up with your ex or that your ex dumps you in an embarrassing or mean or abusive way, but then starts telling other people not to go out with you. Like he's got cooties, or he does X, Y, and Z on the weekends. If you don't want to date him, don't date him. It's that type of interference. And where the arguments come, and we'll get into this in the pleadings, is the balance between First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, and defamation, tortious interference with third-party relations. But that's the header anyways. They sued them for that, and they sued them for intentional infliction of emotional distress, and that's the catch-all. So then what happens? They go to trial, and this is the amazing thing. The trial. They go to trial, and the trial lasted 13 days. Trey Wilson, thank you very much. I'll finish up on this, and I'm going to try to get to some questions. The trial lasted 13 days on the original compensatory damages. So bear in mind, 13 days of trial. The costs. Now, in Canada, and even in more so in Quebec, we don't have like these astronomical figures that you get on judgments like you get in the States. So you don't have lawyers taking things on contingency or part contingency or reduced rate for percentages. It happens in some fields, but it doesn't happen anywhere near as, it doesn't happen the way it happens in the States. So not knowing if they're paying by the hour or they had a contingency agreement with the lawyers, I'll just assume that they're paying the lawyers an hourly rate, and you have to appreciate the costs that go into a 13-day trial. 13 days for a affordable lawyer like myself, you figure it's going to be a 10-hour day regardless, because you get up early, you prep, and then it goes past the court day. So you're going to have a 10-hour day. 10-hour day at my hourly rate, Canadian, was $250. So you're looking at 2,500 Canadian dollars a day for one lawyer per day of trial. Patrick, thank you very much. Love the videos. Would love an analysis on campus students groups being able to choose their leaders based on their own criteria. Okay, maybe later. So $2,500 a day for an affordable attorney. Every day of trial requires at least 1 day of prep. A 13-day trial you can't wing, or you can't do it you can't wing it the way you can wing a 1 or 2 day trial and just you'll go roll with the punches as they happen. 13 days. You have to plan every day. You have to plan your witnesses. You have to structure your arguments. You have to structure the order in which you present evidence. So look, 13-day trial, let me get the numbers even. You're looking at like $40,000 for one lawyer for 13 days of trial, plus another $40,000 for prep. And it's usually like maybe a day or day and a half. You're looking at $100,000 for one lawyer for 13 days of trial. And from what I understand, they had 4 lawyers. And I'm not saying this to judge the amount of lawyers. This was a serious case. The costs, the hard costs, are astronomical for anybody to appreciate until you've been sucked into this litigation process. And the stress. Philip Mosley says, just found your channel in the last few weeks. I'm loving your work, how easily understandable you make the subject and your style. Keep it up. Thank you very much. I prefer the short video vlogs because it's easier to edit out the ums. It's easier to keep it linear and to filter out the distraction. But I love live streams also because we get to actually interact like this. The stress that goes into a 13-day trial. I had a 16-day trial that ended up spanning 1.5 years because it kept on going past the original scheduled hearing dates for whatever the reasons. You don't sleep during these trials, whether you're a party or a lawyer. I always said I lost typically 1 pound for every 2 days of trial, and I'm not exaggerating. I lost 7 pounds during that trial just because you're not eating, you're working day in and out, you're not sleeping. It's endless stress. So the stress of a trial is just the human impact of that, and the human toll of that is tremendous. And you don't know the way it's going to end. It's not like the Gibsons knew this was going to end with a massive judgment. But okay, so that's it. So they go to trial. They present their evidence, And the interesting thing is you have to understand the defenses of what Oberlin would be, because Oberlin has some defenses in theory. The number one defense that Oberlin raised, from what I understood, and if anybody knows there was a channel that did like a day-by-day breakdown, and I don't remember it right now, I forget the channel. They basically chronicled every day of the trial in amazing detail. Oberlin's defenses were that they were not actually participating, they were just ensuring the safety or ensuring that the students were able to voice their concerns. That was one defense, which was obviously not held by the jury. Another defense that they had was that Meredith is entitled to her own personal beliefs, and what she does on her spare time can't incur the responsibility of the university. They didn't retain this either, and I suspect they didn't retain it. I don't know if this is 100%. I don't know if this is entirely accurate, but I suspect it's because I suspect she was there on school time, and that argument sort of failed in that sense. And also, just from a purely logical perspective, she's the dean of student affairs. It sort of makes sense that she's there for and on behalf and representing the university in her capacity as representative. Yosemite Sam, love your channel. Thank you very much. I love Legal Eagle. Everyone should stop hating on Legal Eagle. He has good stuff. It's clear he has his biases, and you can see that in his videos, and you have to interpret accordingly. But you will still learn from watching his channel. So they raised that as a defense, and then they raised the defense of the damages. Obviously, you have to always assess damages. It's not because Oberlin is wrong in law that they are going to be wrong on the amount of the damages claimed by the Gibsons. ASMR Mama, thank you very much. And this is where the sheer level of arrogance obviously irked the jury, because you have the plaintiff making proof of their damages in terms of the quantum, the stress, whatever. They asked for, I think they got the full amount. So I think they asked for roughly 11 some odd $11 million, and they got the full amount. But the evaluation of the business, how much is the business worth? And this is where you have terrible strategy, and you don't have to be a lawyer. This is not a partisan observation. It is a human one. You cannot show arrogance and disdain and contempt for your adversary in front of a judge or jury. And when it came time to argue the damages being argued for the value of the Gibson's bakery business, the Gibsons were saying it was worth $2.1 million, the business, which had been around operational for 125 years. It survived 2 world wars. It survived the Great Depression. It was a going concern. They said it's worth $2.1 million. And you have business evaluators who will evaluate a business professionally. Then you have Oberlin come in. Anybody who knows where I'm going with it, someone, Jay Cutler, don't ruin the punchline. Okay, Oberlin comes in and says your business, which has been around for 125 years, which has survived 5 generations, 2 great wars, the Great Depression, it's worth $35,000. And did I miss a super chat? It's worth $35,000. Okay, now to open a slight parenthesis, I know people who buy shelf companies that have filed annual returns for substantial sums of money just so that they can have a numbered company that has an existence. Now, it's not something that anyone should do depending on why you're doing it, but there is an industry for this. People keep shelf companies and they sell them. They file returns for shelf companies just so that someone can buy a company and say, oh, it's been in existence for 10 years. It's adding insult to injury in the most literal sense, what Oberlin did, and it clearly didn't work because in the damages, the jury came to the conclusion that the business was worth millions of dollars. I think they went with 2.1 million. And one thing is, we're 35. So Jay Howder says it's just a stupid number. Where do they get it? I mean, that I don't know where they got it, but if they got $35,000 as a result of what Oberlin did, I mean, that is, I don't know what you could do to add insult to injury. But if they actually made the argument that the business is only worth $35,000 as of 2017 because of what happened, I mean, that's even more outlandish, but I don't know that that's what they did. So if anybody knows, let me know. Yeah, and tuition for Oberlin is $70,000. It was preposterous. It was outlandish. And one thing, to get to the practice of law side of it, that always irritated judges was you have 2 independent experts. Now, even though a party mandates an expert business evaluator, they are supposed to be independent. They're supposed to be qualified, and they're supposed to be they're supposed to not put out a number that reflects what the party wants, but they're supposed to put out a number that's defensible in the standards of their business. And for some reason, experts always come to the number that their client, that's beneficial to their clients. So you have the Oberlin College coming in and saying the business is worth $35,000, which obviously did not go the way they planned. Daniel Silva, thank you very much. And it went from bad to worse because they lost. And they lost on all fronts. And it's an interesting thing as to how the damages were broken down. I took note just so I don't make a mistake. Is that, oh yeah, so the damages. So $11.2 million damages by the jury. $5.8 million to David Gibson, the current owner. It was $3 million to Alan, his son, and $2.2 million to the bakery. It was stipulation agreements. Okay, that was it. By stipulation agreement, Oberlin is covering the damages against Meredith Raimondo. And that's an interesting thing also is Meredith and Oberlin were found responsible for the libel and the interference with business relations, but Meredith Raimondo was not found guilty. She was not found responsible. I guess it's guilty, whatever. She was not found responsible for the intentional infliction of emotional distress. Only Oberlin was for that. And so that's it. So they get the judgment. And that was after 13 days of trial. The jury, sent this message. And an interesting parenthesis is this decision. If I'm the lawyers for NBC Universal, CNN, and Washington Post in the Nicholas Sandmann file, I'm paying serious attention right now. The facts are different. The situation is different, obviously, because one is a freedom of press issue. The other one is a freedom of expression issue. No, Oberlin was not arguing to be press and therefore protected by the First Amendment. There are differences, but this is reflective of the sentiment of the jurors, and the jurors are citizens, and so this is, ostensibly a reflection of the sentiment of the citizens. When John Hutto, thank you very much. Patrick S., will this affect the schools that block Chick-fil-A? Okay, interesting. We'll get to that in a second. And now you reminded me of something that I wanted to say, actually. Oh no, we'll get to it. It's in the punitive damages. And now I just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? Oh, the sentiment of the jurors. This is an indication for of the mood of the people. And the lawyers in Nicholas Sandmann should be paying close attention. I'm sure Nicholas Sandmann's attorneys are paying close attention and taking notes. So should Washington Post, NBC Universal, and CNN, because this might be the cornerstone, and I think it will go down as the cornerstone decision about taking a step back before escalating situations based on incomplete information that destroy people. That can destroy people. I did a live stream with the amazing Lucas last week, and one of the things we were talking about is, the names. We live in a political climate where everybody on either side is calling the other's names. They call them Trump tards and they call them libtards and all these names, snowflakes and whatever. Calling someone racist is not a name. Like people use it as an argument strategy, and people use it as an insult. It's not it's fundamental. That is destructive of what makes an individual proud to be who they are when accusations like that fly. And you have a business that was surviving for 125 years in arguably the most progressive town in the States, coexisting with all races, religions, and ethnicities, servicing Oberlin College, which is among the most progressive colleges in the world. To have your legacy destroyed like that on misinformation, and have a university which is supposed to act as an arbiter, to have them act as a player in this and not as an arbiter, hopefully this will send the message, not just institutions, but the media as well. And that's the thing I wanted to mention earlier, is that you expect student activism on universities. You expect it because it's there, it's normal, it's healthy to have students find their cause, believe in causes, and pursue those causes. The universities, as far as my personal opinion, I think it's not too controversial to say, is institutions, and universities especially, should not be activist institutions. They are supposed to be the adults in the adult-student relationship. The problem becomes, you can obviously see it, is where you have an economic interest in pacifying and placating and making your students happy. You can then see how this can turn into not an institution, not a relationship of an institution educating its students, but rather an institution having to please its students for business interests, and it leads to problems. And this should be the wake-up call to the world, presumably, or at least America. Okay, so hold on. So Mick Mole 2 says, found your channel. I lost it. I just lost it. Mick Mole says, I found your channel the other day when you broke down Nick Salmon lawsuit and WAPO motion dismissed. Love your channel. Keep it up. Thank you very much. Yeah, that one of those videos got demonetized for some reason, but it doesn't really matter. I really don't care about the demonetization. It's just what irks me is the why, not the what. FMF Forsyth, thank you very much. And so that's it. So then they got sentenced to basically full damages. The jury was not happy with Oberlin's conduct, and Oberlin's conduct. I mean, look, it's not a partisan analysis to say that they were players in this. They were not arbiters, and I think the university has the obligation to everybody to temper things down and not to throw gasoline on the fire. I think was Tim Pool's analogy. It was someone else's analogy, so I can't steal that. But it's like you can't claim not to be responsible for the building being burned down when instead of putting out the flames, you threw gasoline on it, which is arguably, but obviously what the jury found Oberlin did in this case. Then we get to the punitive damages, and this is probably, it shows a bit of the attitude of the client, this type of conduct, and I have difficulty knowing if it can be attributed to the attorneys. The attorneys are supposed to be the advisors of their clients, but oftentimes, depending on the type of client, they can become the mouthpieces to their clients. If I'm Oberlin's attorney, I don't care what they tell me to say. I'm saying you're not coming in with an evaluation of $35,000 for a business that's been around for 125 years. I don't care. I will leave this file and we'll just cite mutual differences. I will get out of this file because I won't let you do that, and I won't be the one to do it for you. That after the damages had been awarded, but before the punitive damages had been adjudicated on, Oberlin sent apparently a mass email to its alumni in which they said to their alumni, I don't have the wording for it, but they basically said the jury did not agree with the clear and concise evidence that we presented to them. Now, we all know as lawyers that's going to be their basis for appeal, presumably, because I suspect this will go to appeal, and we'll get to that. But you don't undermine and insult the jury while they are still deliberating. The trial is not over yet. It's still going on. And typically, there's a reason why lawyers don't make public statements during a trial, because on the one hand, lawyers have an obligation. You don't want to be accused of interfering or trying to influence the jury pool through statements made elsewhere, although I suspect the jury pool is, I suspect they might be sequestered and not having access to outside news, but I don't know in this particular case. Oh my goodness. So, Tensu Makati, thank you very much for the super chat, says the email was sent by their in-house lawyer. Okay, that's not so bad. In-house lawyer is not their external counsel. Regardless, Jeff Wilson, thank you very much. Ginny Thompson, have you ever spoken to Evergreen State College? Not yet. You send me DMs and remind me of these things afterwards, but I'll go look over this afterwards. In-house counsel is an attorney, but it's not external counsel. So you have, when in litigation, you mandate external counsel, although technically your in-house counsel could be your attorney, but in-house counsel is an employee of Oberlin, so they're going to do what Oberlin says because they're not going to get fired over this. So they send out this email basically saying the jury screwed up, didn't agree with our clear and incontrovertible evidence, and we're going to, and then it goes on to say some other stuff. Some other stuff is in the jury, but the jury did a good job, and we respect the jury process, whatever. Mistake. And if I'm the lawyer, I'm saying never send that email. And if I find out afterwards, I would have a strict talk with them, because it's not going to help you. You don't have to be a rocket. I make the rocket scientist joke. It's not going to help you. I appreciate that they have to do damage control internally, because the alumni that they hit up for donations now are seeing where their donation money or where their support is going, in theory. Okay, media content, was Meredith not liable due to deep pockets? I'm not sure what you mean by that. As far as I understood, no. I think Meredith was liable because she was handing out the flyers calling this institution racist. Yeah, so Oberlin has to send out this email to at least do some damage control with their alumni. But you don't undermine the very people who hold your fate in their hands as relates to punitive damages. And in fairness, you don't do it anyhow, because it's not respectful to the people who heard you for 13 days but don't agree with you. But they did it and it's done. And then what ends up happening happens on the punitive damages. They got slapped with, it was $33 million in punitive damages, which was 3 times the judgment. And this is something that I don't understand. And I tweeted it out to Nick Recchiata Law. I tweeted out to Legal Eagle to see if any American can tell me why. I understand from what I've read and what I've seen in the statutes that Ohio law caps punitive damages at 2 times the judgment. And there's a complicated statute. It's like there are caps for punitive damages, and it depends on the nature of the lawsuit. And I don't understand the details of it. All that I understood is the bottom line that everyone was reporting. The punitive damages are capped at 2x, and they went with 3x. Now, I don't know why they did that. Some articles are saying the award might be reduced, which lends the idea that maybe it is somewhat discretionary. But on the other hand, if it's not discretionary and it's statutory and it's objectively 2x compensatory damages, that is the cap for punitive, I don't know why they go with 3x, because that seems to me to give a grounds of appeal at the very least, or a reduction on the quantum awarded. But pride goeth before the fall, and it seems that Oberlin didn't. They made some strategic mistakes that any lawyer from either side can tell you. So they sent this email out and they got slapped with the utmost punitive damages. So by all accounts, it's going to be reduced to 2x the compensatory damages, so 22 million. And it was broken down 17.5 million to David Gibson, 8.75 to Alan Gibson, and the balance 6.97 to the bakery. Let me see if I got any other important notes here. Oh, the decision. So that's that. I mean, that's the. I think this might be among the more detailed breakdowns. And my only benefit is time, because I hadn't put out a video before when there was incomplete information, and now the only thing is going to be appeal. And from what I understand, and from what everyone seems to be saying, there's going to be an appeal. I mean, I think Oberlin sent out a second email, basically saying, this might be part of a lengthy legal process. It's going to go to appeal, I imagine. Now, I don't know, because I've mentioned this in previous videos. We don't have. Oh, DSLR Dave is in the house. I have to just stop right now and say DSLR Dave is the guy who does my thumbnails. He does my good thumbnails. Occasionally, I don't want to bother DSLR Dave when I put out more videos than I can ask him to do for thumbnails. And so I make my own, and they're clearly different than his. He makes the best thumbnails in the world. If anybody actually needs thumbnails, you should DM him. He does good. He does amazing work. Okay. Appeal. There's going to be an appeal. I don't know how appeals work on. I don't know how appeals work. I just got distracted. I can't. Eric Visser, thank you very much. Says, love that I can give a one-time donation via chat to you. You're unique in the way you live life and your ability to analyze complex situations without losing the human factor in it, without judgment, and with compassion. Thank you very much. Look, thank you. Sometimes it's too much, because I actually just I occasionally cry during commercials, and I get goosebumps during Panic at the Disco songs, just because it might be a flaw to some extent. But thank you very much, and thank you very much for the super chat. And anyways, keep watching, Eric. Thank you. Amazing. I don't know how appeals work on jury awards with any degree of specificity. We don't have trial by jury for civil matters in Quebec. So I've never had a trial. I've never had a trial by jury. I once got summoned for jury duty. I made a video on that. You guys should check it out. But I wasn't allowed, because they don't allow lawyers to serve as jury members for some reason. What was I saying? The appeal? Oh, yeah, so I don't know how it works on the appeal, so I tried to look into it, and I think the standards are different from an appeal of in front of a judge versus a jury, and it's different on criminal versus civil. But I mean, it seems that the criteria are whether or not there's a reversible error or an error in law committed by the jury, whether there was a miscarriage of justice. And please, if anybody knows this in greater detail, let me know. But this is the sort of the general principles I was able to surmise. Is that there has to be something determinate to overturn a jury decision. And even when it's a judge's decision, the Court of Appeal always shows great deference in Quebec, because the judge is the one who assessed the credibility of witnesses. The judge is the one who saw everything firsthand. The jury is the one who saw all the evidence firsthand, heard the witnesses talk, looked into their eyes, looked into their soul, and came to their decision. An appeal is not going to hear the witnesses again. They're not going to hear new evidence. They're not going to rehear the old evidence. They might hear new evidence under exceptional circumstances, but the appeal is going to look at transcripts. They're going to read and look over the evidence, and they're not going to reassess it unless there was a patently, legally untenable appreciation of the evidence. And so, you know, whether or not this goes to appeal, the quantum may be reduced, but there's not going to be a second trial. There might be issues on whether or not the jury was given proper or improper instructions by the judge. I don't know anything about that, but anyways, presume it's going to go to appeal. I don't know exactly what that looks like for a civil trial by jury, but I suspect it's not easy to overturn a trial by jury judgment because they saw everything, they came to their conclusions, and it's not for the Court of Appeal to sit as the jury. That is the Oberlin. And how much time? Have we been going for 45 minutes? Okay, that's good. So now anybody who wanted the Oberlin video got a 45-minute vlog, and now we can talk about some other stuff. I have to get to some super chats. William Boyer. Yoel Romero won a set of 9 mil, but got 3 times to make it 27 against Gold Star due to a false positive urine from the supplements. This was in New Jersey. That's interesting. Well, New Jersey might have different compensatory caps than Ohio. I don't know. When was that? I follow UFC. I don't remember hearing anything about that. That's a big payday. That's the biggest payday anyone's going to get. And if you're not McGregor fighting Nurmagomedov or the boxer Mayweather. Okay, we got Funeral Man 04 says off topic, but always wondered if Z is Z. How do you say zebra? I don't even know which. I use them interchangeably. Jennifer Smith, thank you very much. Okay, so that's it. That's the Gibsons. I mean, we're going to see where this is going to go. But oh, sorry. And now punditry, because I do read punditry on both sides. I think one guy's name that I read was David French, who was on the conservative right side. I read this other one who was clearly on the left, and the media is sort of trying to depict this as a danger to the First Amendment. And so this is some opining, and this is not political. These questions are always going to be there. It's always going to be First Amendment, freedom of speech versus defamation and damages resulting from the exercise of freedom of speech, and where one sort of places not necessarily limitations, but consequences on the other. Nifty 50 says, love the growth. Thank you. The growth has been, we'll talk about the growth afterwards. It's a separate subject, but thank you very much. As far as I'm concerned, that play is always going to be there, but this decision is not a risk for a free press. This decision is not a risk for First Amendment freedom of speech. This is a warning that freedom of speech does not include defamation, and freedom of speech is not consequence-free speech. The thought experiment I try to do is, if everything had been right, if the accusations of racism and profiling had been accurate, would the university's response still be justifiable? Yeah, and you'd say, obviously, no one's going to continue doing business with someone who is guilty of racism, racial profiling. The question becomes the process through which justice is exacted or is imposed. But that's a thought experiment that we don't have to play in this case, because this is about false information, defamatory statements of the most profound nature. It's like calling someone racist, and people are sort of taking it like with a grain of salt. That it doesn't matter. It's not a real insult. It's just internet talk. It is a core value of people, tolerance and equality, and especially, you know, for a bakery that's been in the business, for anybody. It's not because it's a bakery. It's not because it's a business that it's less human. These are humans behind it. When you're calling the bakery racist, and you're really undermining a legacy, a history. These people are old people who've done their entire lives, who've worked their entire lives to be good and to do good, and that's it. It's not freedom of speech to call people names that will ruin their lives, that can set people on them. And so I don't believe that this judgment is a risk to freedom of speech, and I don't think it's a danger to it. I think it's the warning that when we live in a society with various interests and various groups, you have to make sure that what you're saying is right before you mobilize thousands of people with the consequences that can have, institutions. So that's my 2 cents on it. It's going to be interesting to see what impact this has on the Nick Sandmann defamation case, but it's not. If you're Washington Post and the media outlets, it's a big red flag that you have to navigate and react accordingly. Okay, let's get to some of the questions now. So does anyone have any questions that I didn't get to about this? And I'm not going to know if I can get into too much of the chat. Oh, and instantly, just so some heads up, everyone says that Canada doesn't have free speech, and people have been pushing me to, or not pushing, but rather wanting me to do something on Bill C-16, which many of you should know, and you've probably heard through Jordan Peterson. I'm on it. And I did a podcast yesterday with Eric Hunley of Unstructured. That podcast should come out in a few weeks. And I did another podcast, and I can't remember the name of the channel, an Australian channel, and I'm going to share that like as soon as it's done and posted. But we talked about it, and I said we have freedom of speech. It's just we have more limitations on our freedom of speech, or we have more consequences from the exercise of our freedom of speech. And that's it. Tim Hortons or Dunkin' Donuts. I can do neither, Jeff, anymore. I used to do. My wife and I, when we were when we were like 20, when we first met, we used to go on road trips, and we would drive 20 minutes out of the way to get Tim Hortons. I think that it's a metaphor for life. The older you get, the more you need like bitter coffee. So I can't. Tim Hortons now tastes like diluted water to me, and I need like espresso allongé or double Nespresso. Shane Wolf. Oh, Shane Wolf, how you doing, man? You are free to say it. They won't jail you. But if you tread on somebody's ability to live freely and fairly, be prepared to make them right. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, that's the problem. That's what people don't really appreciate is the internet creates this environment where you can say things and it's just, disappears into the ether and nobody takes it seriously. Changing history and ruining a legacy on false information that is demonstrably false and confirmed false. People have to think before they do things. People have to think before they mobilize. They have to think before they tweet, retweet. And it was the same thing that happened with Nick Sandman, but it's the same thing that I said about Philip DeFranco. The day after that incident, you don't have to retweet your reaction, your response when the information is not out there yet. And when you do mess up, apologize. The problem is, and I said this in a few other videos, we live in like such a politicized era now where apologies are not seen as a victory for the truth. They're viewed as partisan defeats. And this is why people hate lawyers. You can't apologize to a lawyer. If you're a lawyer, if you're an adverse counsel and you make a mistake and you apologize to the other lawyer, 9 out of 10 are going to hold that apology against you for the rest of the file. And they're going to justify it as being, part of the game. 1 out of 10 say, okay, let's move on, and mistakes happen. GH says, here you go, Amy. Okay, that might be part of a discussion before, or you just super chatted someone else's channel. I'm joking. Thank you very much, GH. Okay, let's see. I got something here at Viva Fry. I came in hearing the answer to the question I was going to ask, but considering Ohio law, do you think that the judge will be required to cap the punitive damages? My understanding is that it's a no-brainer reduction. And I think, someone can correct me on this, I think the judge has the power anyhow to reduce punitive damages, even if it's within the legal limits, but to something that is justifiable or reasonable in the circumstances. So I don't know if there's a discretionary element to why they went past what seems to be the statutory limit. Even if they had stayed within the statutory limit, from my understanding, the judge still has the discretion to reduce punitive damages. And regardless, that might be the sole issue in appeal. Maybe they're gonna say, okay, well, we're not going to disagree with the judgment, just the damages, and then reconsider the evidence on the damages to adjudicate on the damages. But I wish I could. A couple of quick. Okay, sorry. So let's see here. By the way, you're a wonderful presenter, and if I were in Quebec and needed an attorney, I'd retain you for counsel. Great content, Viva. And this is thank you very much. This is quote the Raven, Edgar Allan Poe. It's funny. I've been getting a lot of DMs asking legal questions and even asking me to act. Sometimes it's out of jurisdiction and sometimes it's within the province. I don't want anyone to be offended if I don't respond, because I'm not going to respond to a lot of them, and just because there's a lot coming in. But whoever's watching this ever, I can never take a mandate or give an opinion via text, message, DM, or whatever. I never will. And I'm also I can't give opinions on other jurisdictions. And I'm also not taking new litigation files in Quebec because I can't stomach this. Like it's one thing to assess it from the outside, but it's another thing to live it. It's very difficult. Maybe I'm sensitive. Maybe I was too sensitive for the practice. One of my colleagues, you may see her, she referred to me as a bird. Like apparently my spirit animal was the bird, because she said, this is who I was in real life. But when I got into the examination room, she said my feathers would go up and I would become the bird. And then the act would be over and we'd go back to being friends. But most people couldn't deal with that. Most lawyers are not like that. And most people don't appreciate that when the lawyer is not in lawyer mode, they are a person as well, which clients hate opposing counsel and lawyers in general for that matter. But forget what I was saying there. Oh yeah, no, I'm not taking any more litigation files. So I do transactional work, and I want to do the mediation thing because I think that's where my skills would be better placed. But I'm getting a lot of DMs asking me legal questions or asking me for advice, and I just can't give it because it would be irresponsible. And any lawyer who does do it, you have to be very wary. Law is fact, and this is a discussion I had with Legal in our back, in my video. Law is not about necessarily the law; it's about the facts. The law is one thing, but it's fact-based. And anybody gives an opinion based on incomplete facts or on an email statement of fact is asking for trouble. And I'm not asking for trouble. I'm not asking for lawsuits to the bar because I gave someone the wrong opinion because I didn't know that X, Y, and Z. I never do it without exception. Don't be offended. Ross Lloyd, love the channel. Love you and your opinions. Okay, there was another one just came in. Love your channel. Love you and your opinions. Please make a video talking about the Carpenter versus United States. Direct message me with suggestions because I want to lose these, but I'm gonna screenshot these afterwards. Ross Lloyd, your picture almost looked like a mix between Che Guevara and the Obama red, white, and blue. I like that avatar. Cool. Internet Law Review. Hello, counselor. Loved your Captain Marvel video. Hope you can check out mine. My respect for legal drops more every day because it is so very, very wrong. Also enjoy watching Oberlin eat it. Justice is sweet. Well, okay. So without the, anyways, Internet Law Review, I think I saw a part of it. If your video was like 54 minutes long, I think I saw a portion of it, but we have family stuff and it makes it difficult for me to consume the amount of internet stuff I want to consume. I'm going to go check it out regardless, and everyone go check it out anyhow, because I know a lot of people are saying, look at Internet Law Review's video on the subject. I'm going to check it out for sure. Watching Oberlin eat it, I don't love the Schadenfreude thing in life. This is just a learning lesson. What was that's right. I almost forgot. This is the funniest thing. On the punitive damages, apparently Oberlin argued that the jury should be easy on the punitive damages because it would hurt the students. It would only prejudice the students. Where in their defense, in the lawsuit, they said, well, you can't blame us because it was the students that were doing it. I mean, it's so incongruous in terms of defenses that you need to have someone who can see the logic or the lack of logic in these defenses. I suspect everyone can estimate what the budget is of Oberlin and the endowments and the donations, whatever. But so that was one of the arguments they argued to try to mitigate the punitive damages. It would be unfair on the students who we were the ones blaming for all the stuff that went down in the first place. Ginny Thompson says, you would also be a great law professor, Viva. Also, that's for you. That would be fun. Politics of institutions is an interesting thing to navigate. Like that's one of the things that I remember about the big law firm and where I lived for a long time. There's politics in the non-political sense, but like you have to navigate things. And anyhow, that's a subject for another day. Okay, so let's see what we got. It's not nice to attack anyone. Okay, sorry. I don't want to get involved in some of the discussions going on. Cooking video. Okay, Agoy. Check out, I'm not trying to plug my Viva Random channel because it's not going to be anything that's going to be consistent or whatever, but that's where I'm putting the cooking stuff, the fun stuff. The growth in this channel in the last, say, 2 months, I think it's because, well, my assessment is because I found my niche or my niche has found me, but people know what to expect when they come here, which makes it easier for them to come. They know what they want, and there's a demand for this. And also the flip side is YouTube knows where to promote or recommend. YouTube sort of knows where to place my videos, and I don't want to say messes with the algorithm, but it confuses the channel when there's too much eclectic stuff. So I'm just going to do the vlogs and focus on the vlogs, which is going to involve some family stuff from time to time, and I have some great ones planned. But the cooking stuff and the fishing stuff and the random 30-second videos of a squirrel jumping from a tree on Viva Random, and I just put one up. Agoy, I just put one up. It was a cooking video. That was a cooking. It was a night out because my wife and I got invited to this restaurant in Montreal called Lavanderia, which is, for anyone who knows chefs, Chef Antonio Park has a restaurant there. And they had an evening for the F1, which was amazing. But they invited 2 chefs, Chef Guga Rocha from Brazil and Chef, it's Trois Gros, but I forget his first name. And it was amazing. So you can check that video. It's a mouth-watering foodie video. More fishing videos? Well, they're going to be there. I haven't gone fishing in a while yet because family stuff has kept me in town. But when I get out and go fishing, Can't understand Trudeau. That is S. Dandrol. We have elections coming up. Mr. V. Passionam says precisely Oberlin was behind massive efforts to destroy good people who were victims of battery. I mean, that was the problem, is that it was as though Oberlin decided to be an active player in this, and universities, they have to be the arbiter and they have to be the responsible adult to quell things. Anyways, that's it. Internet Law Review says it was 54 minutes long. That is a bit of time and commitment. Sorry about that. I understand you have a life. You're the man. Well, incidentally, I figured out a trick to watch things at 2x, which people, I don't think anybody can watch my videos at 2x. They have to watch them like 0.75x, but no, that's it. Anyways, I'm going to get to it, Internet Law Review. And everyone, go watch it. Watch Internet Law Review's video on it and watch mine and let me know what you all think. I definitely think Legal got carried away with, I think he was trying to be contrarian and humorously contrarian to Ben Shapiro. And, you know, it's like there's a game on YouTube as you try to, you don't pick fights. You want to get involved in discussions or what's the word they use? What's the conversations? You want to get in conversations with other channels because it's sort of like, call it a forced collaboration, but it's good for energy. It's sort of like the PewDiePie T-Series thing or rivalry. It was good for both channels because it just brought attention to both channels. And I'm sure that's what Legal was going after in terms of being contrarian to Ben Shapiro and the others who had what I think was the more legally tenable interpretation of that situation. And so, I mean, that's what I was going after too, is, you know, Legal has a good channel and he has some good content, but I radically disagreed in law, even though I'm Canadian, he's American, and there are nuances and differences between the law. I think he was, I think he let his personal opinion influence. It was a good argument as her attorney, but I don't think it was the legally tenable interpretation of the events. Joel Dickman says, in fairness to Legal, I'm going to give him a good faith belief that he was trying to give Captain Marvel the best legal defense on the vacuum of the deleted scene. And that's exactly, I mean, that is what it came off as. It came off as what a good defense attorney would raise to charges of battery brought against Captain Marvel. That's the caveat. Because there's no question. She would have been, and someone commented on my video, a policeman, I wish I could remember his name. It was a long comment, but said, I'm a policeman. She would have been handcuffed and booked for assault and battery, and it would have been for her good legal team defense to explain why that wasn't assault and battery, and Legal would get the mandate and argue that she was battered first when he pulled down the newspaper. Anyway, good luck with that, but no, there's no way. There was no way. Let's see what we got. Viva Fried base, legal biased. Okay, thank you, Tyler. I believe I am based, but I don't. That based seems to have negative connotations these days as well. What the hell was that noise? My washing machine just finished. It sings to let me know that the dishes are ready for dispensing into the pantries. Okay, that's it. Let's go. We'll get to get a few more questions if I can get to them, and then we're going to call it a quits because I know the kids are coming home soon. And yeah, I know it's Father's Day is tomorrow, and you figure the day before Father's Day has to start off by reminding you how difficult parenthood can be sometimes. Well, and that's another thing. Everyone is biased. I don't think I'm biased. I know I have my opinions, but I think the trick is to always play the thought experiment. How would they describe their position to you? And if you can do it, I mean, you have to make the exercise so that you can at least understand. Carlo V says, David, do you know of Mike Colomico? You remind me of him, same speech pattern and look. I do not know who Mike Colomico is, but I get a number of people. Who was the one I got from I think he was from a Marvel movie. The Punisher? Who's the guy from The Punisher? Blumenthal? Bernthal. Scott Bernthal? Yeah, something like that. Greg DeHammer says, I appreciate your channel because I'm an appreciator of the law and I try to be assertive to the truth. The way you broke down the NBC Universal Nick Salmon case was spot on. Keep it up. Thank you very much. I do my best. There are things where I know that I'm just too opinionated to give an objective breakdown. I'm trying to think of one subject where someone asked me, I don't think I can do it just because I don't believe that there's two tenable positions, but I don't remember what the subject was. That is it. Let's get some questions and then we're going to Agoy. Yeah, well, I missed them too. Agoy says he misses the family trip videos. Well, incidentally, when I go on the road, we're going to find a way to work law vlogs into road trips. We haven't done a road trip in a while. We're going to do one this summer, and we will have on location law vlogs that are going to do everything. In fact, I want to do an on-location fishing law vlog. I have to just figure it out. And I want to do like a cooking law vlog. I'll figure out a way to work it in. But some of the news that comes out requires sort of like a timely response or a timely interpretation, which doesn't, yeah, road trip, indeed. We're going to go, I haven't been on a road trip in a while. I want to sleep in a tent with the kids. I want to take the dogs. And that'll be it. Okay. Would you consider yourself a moderate left-leaning or a moderate right? I quote the Raven, I don't know these things. I know that I espouse beliefs which are traditionally left, and I know I espouse other beliefs which are traditionally right. And I followed my the firearm safety course in Canada, and I swear, like I can't. I'm neither left nor right. It's like I think I'm center, but I think these labels only serve for tribal politics, where you say, okay, are you left or right, so that we know whose team you're on. When they're more nuanced than that, and I think we have to, at some point, really work our way away from this false dichotomy of left or right, because it's only good for politics and it's only good for elections. Okay, what else? What does your wife think of your YouTube channel? She likes it. She's very, this is, who said this? Blessed Done 333 AZ. I guess you're from Arizona. She loves it, and she's been very supportive of it. This actually came out in, did it come out in the live stream with the amazing Lucas or the podcast? She's been very supportive, and it's great because it's a life change to try to succeed doing this, and it's not easy, and it's definitely, if you have a high standard of living, or you have high means or expensive habits, this course of action is risky for those types of decisions. But no, she's very supportive. Jim Keel says, okay, now something important, Sega or SNES? Well, I would take you to the other room to show you. I'm one step before that. We have the Nintendo Entertainment System, the original, and we play pinball with the kids and Super Mario Brothers, and my favorite is Double Dragon 2, because I love that video. I mean, it's that video game. Okay, let's see. Do your kids want to be lawyers? I think that media content, I think my kids now know better. I mean, the law degree is one thing, and if you can get 10 years of practice to learn, it's invaluable. I don't think you need any more than 10 years to really have mastered the practice and know what it's about. It's like the expression about living in New York is do it long enough to build character, but not to crush spirit. The law degree is immensely useful. The practice was immensely useful. And people love it. I mean, people also pick domains where it has meaning that can make up for the drudgery. But I even found, even in the meaning, like, good defense attorneys or good prosecution attorneys, you're still dealing with stuff where the consequences are human consequences that and it's tough to deal with without dissociating yourself spiritually from what's going on, which some people do well and other people don't do as well. What do I think about Canadian compelled speech? Lucas Neeland, I'm doing a video on it because too many people are asking for it, and too many people are. That is not a 100% accurate summary of it, but that is the catch. That is the headline that takes off, and that's what Jordan Peterson sort of oversimplifies in a lot of his discussions. But I 100% am coming out with a video on that, because the Bill C-16, just to whet your appetite, was an amendment to the Canadian Charter and to the Criminal Code, adding gender expression and gender identity as a protected class for discrimination, and not as a protected class, but rather as a consideration for determination of what is the word? Sanction. For goodness sake, that's terrible. Sentencing in criminal law. And it's not as straightforward as compelled speech, but there is a risk that it goes there with respect to internal policies of government institutions. We will get there. It's coming. Just give me some time. But it's not compelled speech. A lot of people say because it sells well, but it's more nuanced. Would I have Jordan Peterson on my live stream? It's a funny thing. I would have anybody on my live stream because I love listening to people, even the people I disagree with. The problem with the world that we live in this came out in the podcast yesterday with unstructured, is like people want to react to the point of people want to react just to prevent these types of discussions, and it would not be a question of whether or not I would have him on. I would love to have him on. It's just a question of whether or not I would want to. Whether or not I'd be willing to, deal with what necessarily comes with that, even if it is a civil discussion, and even if I challenge him. We live in a world where people almost, there's a lot of overreactionary stuff that comes with controversial characters, and I don't mind controversial characters, and I don't mind disagreeing with them. but it gets a reaction. Tell a lawyer joke. Knock, knock. Your lawyer. That'll be $250. By the way, I literally just made that up. I swear to you, I just made that up. Emilia, can we all, we have proof of creation. I just made that joke up. Well, there's too many. They're all dirty jokes, but yeah, whatever. Okay, let's see. What do we got here? They can only prevent you if you bend to intimidation. No, this is true, but there's controversy, and then there's controversy, and just this goes on in my head all the time, because I can have a discussion to the extent that it remains civil, and I can have a discussion with anybody, however much I disagree with what they say. My threshold, like I would say, my threshold for what I'll tolerate is hate and violence, and not just stuff. And I don't qualify hate as that with which I disagree. I call it objective hate, and anything that promotes violence is my line. I can have a discussion with anybody. Let's see here. Do we have any other questions? New phone, who dis? Okay, Jordan Peterson, in my opinion, is exploiting 18 to 22-year-olds acting as a father figure with an answer to life. It's interesting. I've heard that interpretation of what he does. The thing is this: he has good points and he has bad points. He makes good points and he oversimplifies, given the nature of what is digestible on internet given attention spans. The compelled speech, I'm just prefacing this, is oversimplified to the point of inaccuracy. It's a concern, but it's an oversimplification, and I'll even say I believe it's a mischaracterization of Bill C-16. Whether or not it ends up being an inadvertent consequence down the line, then we get into the slippery slope. But Americans love calling Canadians, or Americans love characterizing Canada as having compelled speech, like you go to jail if you mispronoun someone. It's not that way. So we'll get to it, and stay tuned. Do I make vlogs for the benefit of information, of community monetization, or a blend of both? Well, this is Lucas Neeland. Hold on one second. Okay. Do I make the vlogs for benefit of information, the community monetization, or a blend of both? It is, well, obviously, look, if I can't survive doing it, then I can't do it. That's the number one rule. And incidentally, I set up I have a Patreon account. I have a membership button, by the way. If anyone wants to become a member, you might notice some people have like a little Viva Fry flag next to their names. If you become a member on YouTube, that's one way to support the channel. I can't do it if I can't live doing it, or I just have to have it like be as a total pastime. But it's definitely more the former, because when I started doing the vlogs, I still can't survive off the YouTube channel, but I was only doing it for the benefit of subjects that I loved. But I mean, that's the concept of ikigai, is when you can do what you love, the world needs what you love, you're good at what you love, and you can get paid for what you love. Well, let me rephrase. That's it. It was ikigai. Well, I'm going to do a video on that too, but I love doing it because I would do this on my spare time anyhow. So it's just making use of my spare time. I love doing it. People love it. It seems that people they get something out of it. I think I'm contributing to the goodness of the world, and I don't think I'm deviating from my mission statement of this channel, which is to make the world a better place and to contribute to the global pool of happiness. I think it sticks with that, and people learn. And I hope people can learn to empathize and learn to understand and respect an opinion that they radically disagree with. They can still respect someone who voted for their political adversary. And that's it. Yeah, so a little bit of both. Now, I missed something on Internet Law Review. I saw this come through. Hold on. Jim Keel I got to. Okay, Internet Law Review says, where did it go? A person goes to a lawyer and asks, what's 2 + 2? The lawyer closes the blinds, dims the lights, and says, what do you want it to be? All right, I like where that went because of where it sounded like it was going. All right, let's see if I got some comments here. A lot of hearts. Hamilton love. Thank you. We love it. And the thing is, I have a lot of subs who have been here for 5 years. And at the beginning, it was non-law. Then it became sort of somewhat law about 2 years ago. And then like as of a year, it became predominantly law. And I feel bad for people who don't care about this stuff, or who came before this stuff and don't necessarily like this as much as the cooking videos. But the YouTube algorithm has beaten me into submission. So I have to dedicate this channel to branded content so that people know what to expect. And I set up the other channel. I don't care if that channel has 1 or 50 subscribers or the videos get 1 or 50 million views. That's why I put the stuff that's non-law that I think people would love. But my mission statement was to increase the global pool of happiness. And I like to think that every video I've ever put up adheres to that mission statement. Even the stuff where we talk about boring law stuff or controversial law stuff, it's not because the subject is controversial that every discussion about it has to be controversial. Okay, a good lawyer knows the law, a great lawyer knows the judge. That 100%, I think that was one of the top comments in the previous video. Media content says, can you talk about Lindsay Shepherd rebuilds it? I'm going to look into, when I dive into that, I'm going to get all of it. Because there are a couple of incidents at universities that, there were a couple of incidents that I don't know about because I haven't heard of them, but they're like the examples that Jordan Peterson cites that I have to know of before I can come to a sensible vlog. Can you do a vlog on Brexit, please? Yeah, that's a touchy one. That's 3 years later. There has been no Brexit. It's amazing. Why do scientists use lawyers instead of rats? Because there are things you can't get a rat to do. All right. Social responsibility shouldn't be confused with socialism, but all too often the line between the two become blurred, especially these days. Okay, if anyone just heard that text, that might be the cue to actually wind this down officially. Maybe a video on the UFC Romero situation. Absolutely. Okay, if I DM me these suggestions, tweet them to me. That way I screenshot and keep them in my phone because my memory is not what it was. Kronos says, how's it going? Kronos, I don't know if you just tuned in, but we are literally winding down now. Why won't sharks attack lawyers? Professional courtesy. That one. There's the other one. Whatever. We won't go there. How familiar? Why do sharks not need lawyers? Okay, we got that. How familiar are you with Section 230 of the CDA in America? Not at all. I would have to look at it before even knowing what to think about it. Flag burning guy got 250,000. There's a new business. Oh, that was one of the comments that came, or the assessments that came out of the Oberlin. Is that the dollar figure that came on this is, the private industry does a good job of regulating abuse. So when there becomes an industry to sanction abuse, like what apparently, what the jury deemed was abuse in this Oberlin case, people are going to think twice before they engage in questionable conduct, even in the name of social justice. Okay, let's do that. I'm going to wind this down and share this around, share the channel. I love it. I mean, we're so close to 100,000 subscribers. That has been this milestone in my head, of this dream for the longest time. So just share, and if you can, tweet me out to some other, the guys who, the channels that might be able to give me some more exposure, because it's tough to be noticed in a sea of internet content. But if you like it, share my stuff. That's the greatest way you can support the channel. Patreon membership. I'm going to include a PayPal button sooner than later because I have a PayPal account. I may as well make use of it. And that merch is terrible. I suck at merch, but whatever. I'm going to put up a link, and if anybody wants, I need to get my own Know Your Vlog shirt before I can actually, in good conscience, suggest other people buy it. So when you see me wearing that shirt, I'll start plugging it. Okay, that's it. Going to subscribe to Viva Random. Thank you, Agoy. Okay, people, that is it. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. And how do I close this? Let me just maximize and say peace out. Know the vlog. Not legal advice. See you guys soon. Boom. Stop broadcast now.